Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Weekend Hour. I'm Brannon, Howse, and tonight a very special broadcast on this Friday evening. And again, we're going to be joined by General Thomas McInerney, three-star general, retired, and national intelligence researcher and author Mary Fanning. And my friends, we will then be joined a little bit later by Alex Newman. We'll also be playing about a 7-minute video clip tonight of a United States senator that says, hey, this is all conspiracy. There's no evidence of voter fraud. There really isn't. Maybe a little bit here and there, but it's all conspiracy. And he went on to say we need to follow the rule of law. In other words, we need to go ahead and surrender the White House to someone that Charles Grassley, U.S. Senator Charles Grassley, said not too long ago was basically the equivalent of a communist Chinese agent, Joe Biden and his family. And yet this Republican U.S. Senator says we need to be good sports. We need to follow the law. Wait a minute. Have they followed the law? My friends, we have a very serious problem. It doesn't appear as though we have as many people on Capitol Hill taking this as seriously as we could. Now, this is not about whether or not your child, has pizza in their school lunch. This is not about a hot lunch program. This is not politics. This is about the nation. This is about foreign interference and enemies, foreign and domestic. You'll also hear where this U.S. Senator in this clip we'll play later says that martial law or the Insurrection Act is over the line. We'll get into that later. We'll be joined by Alex Newman and Mary Fanning for that segment. But in our first segment, we'll be joined by Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, as I said, and Mary Fanning. And of course, that brings us, we're going to have to move quickly to last night, where you and I and Mary and others were on a conference call that has now been placed on YouTube for everyone to watch and see the entire hour. And we got U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin. You tell me what you take away from it. I'd rather hear your take on it.
Well, I still am not ready to throw Senator Johnson under the bus. Like I said earlier on the radio today, he does have a track record of being a decent guy. In fact, he's spoken at our school. I'm a teacher, and I'm deeply involved with the Freedom Project Academy. And he's been a good ally to us. And he's got a decent voting record in Congress, and he has been listed as one of the possible senators who might be willing to challenge the election fraud. However, what happened on the private, what I thought was a private meeting, I think what was supposed to be a private meeting, but eventually came out yesterday, I think was very troubling. And I think if people go watch the video, they'll see that for themselves. We had General McInerney, a very highly respected individual who put his life on the line over and over and over again for our freedom, for our nation. And he expressed his view that the President of the United States needs to invoke the Insurrection Act, declare martial law, and take urgent action to rescue our nation from the clutches of its enemies, both foreign and domestic. And regardless of our opinion on General McInerney's opinion, he deserves to be treated with respect. His opinions deserve to be taken seriously and considered. And I think Senator Johnson did not treat him with probably the respect that he deserved. And he also, what I think was especially troubling was how he dismissed the voter fraud. Now, he didn't say it wasn't possible that there was voter fraud. In fact, he said that he was open-minded and he was open to seeing the evidence. And I understand now some of the people on that call have already sent him evidence. However, I had the opportunity to ask him a question about what would happen if the Senate refused to accept the electors from these states where Biden won with obvious fraud. And he gave an answer that I actually asked one of the attorneys who was on the call, a very influential individual, actually one of Phyllis Schlafly's sons, and he explained that no, that was inaccurate. Senator Johnson must have been misinformed. Maybe one of his staff members did not give him accurate information. But anyways, this is all very problematic, and I think not just Senator Johnson, all 100 members of the Senate have some real explaining to do, and I think that really needs to begin with Mitch McConnell. I think we need some real answers about Elaine Chao, his wife, about her contacts and her family's relationship with the Communist Party of China, and is he corrupt? His wife, of course, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, which is probably the most important organization in the United States. It's been aiding and abetting the rise of Communist China. And so I think the American people need some answers here. This is not something that we can just kind of pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off and just keep walking along. This is not going to go away. This is going to become bigger and bigger and bigger, and these questions must be answered. Anybody who betrayed their nation for China needs to be held accountable, and I mean, that's very serious. The Communist Chinese Party has declared people's war on the United States, which, as Trevor Loudon has explained, that means basically everything short of actually shooting, and the shooting part may come later, but that includes cyber warfare, that includes bio warfare, biological warfare, and we have a real crisis on our hands. And as I said earlier today, I think we are at one of the most dangerous points in our nation's history. What happens over the next few weeks may well decide the fate of our country and whether we survive as a free people with free political institutions that protect our rights, which of course come from God. That's how serious the stakes are. And I think everybody in the Senate, starting with Mitch McConnell, but all the way down to including Ron Johnson, has got to get some answers here, has got to provide some answers. These are incredibly important questions, and they can't be overlooked.
We're going to play the clip here, but in 60 seconds, tell me your concerns about Mitch McConnell's wife, the Senate Majority Leader's wife.
Well, the Senate Majority Leader's wife comes from a family that made its fortune in shipping. And as anybody who knows anything about Communist China knows, you don't make a fortune in business in China. You really don't even have business, quote unquote, in the sense that we have business in America, right? Business, to the extent that it exists in Communist China, is controlled by the Communist Party of China, and it exists to serve the Communist Party of China. So yes, they'll let some of their members, some members of the Communist Party of China, can become billionaires. However, they don't have a market system like we used to here in this country. If you look, for example, at the companies listed on the Shanghai Stock Exchange, the last time I looked, something like 25 out of the 27 top companies on that stock exchange were majority owned and controlled by the Communist Party of China. Nothing moves in China without the permission of the Communist Party. It's not a meritocracy. It's a corrupt club. And so the fact that Elaine Chao's family became wealthy through its contacts and associations and relationships with the Communist Party of China is very, very troubling. Then the fact that Elaine Chao is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, that compounds the problem. I mentioned Richard Howse earlier, who was criticizing Secretary of State Pompeo for training his guns on Communist China. Look, we're in a war here against a mass murdering dictatorship that has slaughtered more people than any government in human history. We're talking about 100 million people, not even including the unborn babies that have been slaughtered by this government. This needs to be taken with the utmost seriousness. And when you have an organization like the Council on Foreign Relations, of course, the Council on Foreign Relations was led for many, many years by David Rockefeller. David Rockefeller went over to China in the early 1970s before Americans were even supposed to be there. He came back and he wrote a column, an op-ed in the New York Times. Anybody can go read this right this moment. And he said the whole thing is an abomination. He talks about how great the system is, how they have unity of purpose and dedicated administration. And then in his conclusion, he says that the social experiment, this is a direct quote, the social experiment in China under Chairman Mao is one of the most successful and important in all of human history. Anybody who thinks that the slaughter of, at that point, probably 50 million human beings is a successful social experiment ought to be put either in a rubber room wearing a straitjacket or in a federal prison. That is completely unconscionable. And yet this is the sentiment of the global elites, very much in the United States, centered around the Council on Foreign Relations. So I think Elaine Chao needs to be looked at under a microscope, and by extension, Mitch McConnell needs to be looked at under a microscope. Now we have Mitch McConnell trying to prepare the way for Joe Biden's coronation when we know this election was just completely dominated by fraud. And that's unacceptable. It cannot be tolerated.
All right, let's go to the clip of Ron Johnson, then we'll have closing comments. Melissa, roll that clip, please.
Yeah, I just do not agree with the General McInerney that there was some 3% bump up because of some, machine problems. So that's Wisconsin. The second area of voter problems is really in actual fraudulent votes. And so we had the attorney for Trump from Nevada, who, because he can't get, and by the way, this is a real problem. Our courts have not examined the evidence in many cases. I don't know, I don't have the exact count on that, but of the 50, 60 cases, 40, 50 of those have been dismissed or decided in some way, shape, or form. And so the courts, it's true, just dismissed because of lack of standing, or you didn't bring your suit in time. So that is a real problem that courts have simply just not wanted to weigh into this because they're under time pressure. The election needs to be decided. You have deadlines looming, and that's always been the case, which is why fraud in voting is never examined after the fact. The losing party doesn't have the resources to really challenge it, and people just move on. I don't believe we can move on, which is why I decided to hold that hearing. But that's different from some vast conspiracy that people are suspicious of that has not been proven. I'll just tell you up front, I have a very open mind based on the investigations I've been doing for 3 years. Trust me, there is corruption. There is a deep state, okay? But looking into this, I do not have the evidence yet, and I'm talking to everybody, okay? Sidney Powell, I'm talking to them all, and I'm getting information, but you don't see the hard evidence. In Nevada, the attorney for the Trump campaign, they put together their analysis. 42,000 people voted both absentee and in person. The court wouldn't look at that. 1,500 dead people. Thousands of people from out of state voted. That's a problem. And again, the court didn't take a look at that. We need to get to the bottom of that. Pennsylvania, we had an excellent witness, Representative Frank Ryan, former military. He was in Iraq. He helped oversee, as a CPA, that's his background. He's an auditor. He understands the auditing process. So he was in Iraq overseeing those elections. And now as an elected official, he's trying to get information out of Philadelphia election officials, and he can't. But I don't believe he's subscribing to the theory of machine conspiracy and, hammer and scorecard. I can say that, and I know General McInerney will say, well, that's all part of the conspiracy. But within CISA, hammer and scorecard is something that they have just dismissed. I have an open mind, but I need to see evidence. And here's what you need to see evidence of. It's not just, well, these machines can do this. Yeah, any computer can do just about anything. But you got to prove it did. And secondly, you have to prove how does that circumvent the paper ballot and the auditing trail. The fact that the machine spit out a paper report at the end of things. So again, I held a hearing. We brought forward witnesses that are talking about some very troubling irregularities. The Democrats dismiss it all. Their guy won. They just want to tell us, shut up and move on. I'm not shutting up. I'm not moving on. But I'm also not just basing, everything on suspicion. I need evidence. Our hearing record remains open for 2 weeks. My intention will be until I get to the bottom of all of these things, until I examine all of them, I will dismiss none of them, but I need hard evidence.
Okay, I'd like to ask the senator, that was an excellent presentation, Senator Johnson. I appreciate what you're doing. Where do you think the president got that number of 149,772 at 0631 hours?
I have no idea.
Do you think it would be worthwhile for you to find out?
We're trying to.
I guarantee you, he will tell you in every state, and I have another source. And at the appropriate time, I will make that available to you.
Again, we were open for business. We were accepting all kinds of information. We're still open for business. So provide me information.
Okay, good. But even then, the House will not change their votes. They are not going to do anything.
I understand. So, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that's why martial law is important, that the president take control of this.
General, you are looking at something that is a dramatic step. Okay, that is not. I'm sorry, that is not something. I am not supportive of declaring martial law. I think you're crossing the line there when you're recommending that.
Well,
I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah, but if you're presented the data that shows that President Trump won in a landslide, and you still wouldn't do that.
No. We haven't seen it. Okay.
No, but I believe you will.
General, I have to say it. Again, people are saying you shut down voting in Wisconsin. We did not. I've talked to the election officials. We did not. So some of this stuff is being, described here. I know is completely not true.
Well, I didn't give any numbers on Wisconsin, and I'm not talking about
You talked about 5 states where they shut down voting. We didn't shut down voting in Wisconsin.
I didn't say I don't know if I said Wisconsin.
General, this is not a time to go back and forth and argue things, okay? I have a very open mind. Trust me. From what I've seen in my investigations, the corruption of the FBI investigation, Chuck Grassley, I think, get a phone call back from the CIA director, Gina Haspel. Trust me, I have a very open mind. There's something rotten in Denmark. There's no doubt about it. But Carly, I really do have to. I've got an 8 o'clock call and I've already missed it.
All right, so that's from a conference call last night that Mary and Alex Newman and I were on. I think it's very troubling if that's the attitude on Capitol Hill, and these guys won't even listen to the general, but all of a sudden, after he tries to give them facts, I'm sorry, I got to go. I'm busy. This is all conspiracy. Well, even the liberal media is now saying that SolarWinds has been hacking on our most sensitive government agencies. And is there a connection between SolarWind and the voting machines? Well, Mary's reported tonight that Dennis Montgomery, who wrote this program in 2003 of HAMMER and SCORECARD, was warning in 2015 that there was a problem with SolarWinds and was warning, I think, James Comey and others about it. So if the media is willing to report on it hacking government agencies, why not the voting machines? And is Senator Johnson willing to look at that? But I don't like the way he treated our friend and distinguished military General McInerney. Now, before we conclude, Mary, we've got breaking news. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so Senator Johnson, I agree with Alex that the man is working to save this country, but he needs the evidence. And let me direct Senator Johnson. He said that, do you think that Sydney would have invoked SCORECARD and HAMMER, the woman who is representing General Flynn, who had been the head of the DIA, who SCORECARD and HAMMER were actually built for as a foreign surveillance tool? Further, we found in legal documents from March 3rd, 2018, an opinion by Judge Richard Leone, who told that the IG for the IC community, Charles McCullough, was very close to James Clapper, had taken all of Dennis Montgomery's evidence. It was held by the IGIC. That is where Senator Ron Johnson will find all the evidence to SCORECARD and HAMMER, and the fact that James Comey took the source code to SCORECARD. Senator, go and talk to Charles McCullough, who is very close, as he says in newspaper reports, to James Clapper, and further that he represented Eric Charmella. So I suggest, Senator Ron Johnson, that you will find your cache of information at the IGIC, where it is all being held, and where the IGIC Charles McCullough put it.
Now, wait a minute. I don't think I've heard this from you before. Is this new information you just threw on the table?
This is new information because Dennis Montgomery also testified. Understand with this, what is happening with what we're looking at with SolarWinds. They are to be protecting all of our national secrets. It had back doors. It was not secure. Montgomery testified multiple times to the FBI and DOJ about that. But all of that evidence, all of that testimony, the 47 hard drives are held at the IGIC, who was Charles McCullough. That's where that information is held, according to Judge Leone's court documents.
And again, you've not reported this before till tonight. Is that right, Mary?
That's correct. We just posted this at the American Report. You will find an article there, and it is called Stealing America. Former Communist Comey got SCORECARD election hacking source code, and he knew SolarWinds was not secure. Now, you tell me, did the Obama administration share that information with the Trump administration? Did they know that this country, our national security secrets were not secure because of this?
Wow. All right, that's Mary Fanning and Alex Jones have been with us. And again, folks, we'll be live tomorrow night with NSA whistleblower Kirk Wiebe. Live again, a special broadcast Saturday night and Sunday night. Sunday night, Mike Lindell, the pillow guy, will be with us. Tomorrow night, NSA whistleblower Kirk Wiebe. Tell all your friends, 8 p.m. Central Time. Now, folks, our streaming bill for the last few weeks is now, it's approaching $24,000, okay? We've used in just a few weeks what usually is a year contract. We are excited about that because we have a lot of new listeners. But, folks, the bottom line is, if you appreciate what we're doing and offering these broadcasts and not putting them behind a paywall so you have to go to a paywall to see it right away, that we leave it out and we broadcast it. We need your support. You can make a tax-deductible contribution right now to help us continue to make these shows available for free to the public in this crucial hour. You can go to wvw-foundation.com to make a tax-deductible contribution. Please do that. wvw-foundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to send a check, as well as our phone number if you would rather give over the phone during normal business hours. But folks, if you appreciate what we're doing, the service that we're offering, the information we're offering, the public service that we're offering, the national security education that we're giving you. Hey, look, Fox News and others have gone in the ditch. We're trying to help you, but you've got to help us. Together, we can keep this as a pipeline to reach the American people, and we are reaching millions, evident by the use of our bandwidth in a few weeks, what is normally a year. So thank you for going right now to wvw-foundation.com and making that tax-deductible contribution and partnering with us to keep these programs out there and for free to the public. Thank you again to Alex Newman, his website, theamericanreport.com, and Mary, her website, theamericanreport.org. And so we'll have her article at worldviewtimes.com as well. And we'll see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central Time, right here with NSA whistleblower Kirk Wiebe. Thank you for watching. Till next time, I'm Brannon Howse. Take care.